What's up there, YouTube land and also social media lands? Welcome to an all new video. In this video we're doing a movie review of a new film that just came out this past Friday and is a remake of a CGI animated film that came out in 2010, so we're going to get right into that. Before we do that, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss this video and the other videos I put up. As always, people, if you enjoy my content here on YouTube, definitely check out other social media platforms such as Patreon, X, Facebook, Instagram, Threads. Pretty much posting these regularly, so definitely check them out. As always, let's get right into this. So welcome one and all to an all new video. So like I was saying before, we're doing a movie review of a new film that just came out this past Friday, and is a amazing remake, reboot film of a CGI animated film that came out in 2010 called How to Train Your Dragon. Yeah! How to Train Your Dragon. Yeah! So How to Train Your Dragon is a live-action remake of the CGI animated film that came out in 2010, like I said, from Universal Pictures. And once again, is a kind of a, you know, like a reboot, kind of like what they did with The Lion King a couple years ago, what they did with Aladdin, they did with Beauty and the Beast from Disney and stuff like that. And actually, what's surprising is this is Universal's first animated CGI film to live action form that they've done. And I'm surprised it took them this long to get into that game, since, you know, basically Disney's been doing it now for almost like 10 years. And, you know, I think they did a pretty decent job. You know, it basically is a carbon copy of the original film, and it even has the same musical composer doing the music for the film as well. And I think that how they did it, you know, basically, you know, from get-go to ending, you know, surprisingly, it was pretty much point on. If you're a huge fan of the animated film, you'll be a huge fan of this one. And I think that it was interesting that they decided to do it like, you know, basically carbon copy of the film. And I think it played out very well for it, because it really was a very enjoyable film. Now, the original film was a little shorter, so I feel there was a little more added to the live action form. But overall, I think that, you know, for what like I said, I think it was pretty much a carbon copy. But I do like what they did with the film, because they gave it a really great rustic look. They made it really look like Viking times. And I love that they filmed it over in Ireland and stuff like that. It really gave it that great Viking feel. And I think it was interesting, too, that they decided to go kind of a little different, in a different direction with the film, too, by adding some more female supporting characters as well into the film. And if you didn't see them, they're these women Vikings that are a part of kind of like the crew and everything, and I thought that was kind of interesting. They decided to go that route. But overall, the film itself was actually pretty decent. I enjoyed it. I thought they did a good job. But, you know, on the other hand, you know, sometimes having a carbon copy is not always enjoyable, but in this case, I feel it was a really great choice, because the original animated film was so darn good. And this being a carbon copy of that, I think really played out very well for the film, and made it very entertaining and enjoyable as well. And seeing all these things come to actual live action life, which is so cool, especially the dragons. Oh my gosh, they look so amazing, and the technology they used and the CGI they used for this was just so phenomenal and just looked so amazing. And I think they did such a great job making it go from that, you know, kind of 2D, 3D kind of animation to full-on, you know, and, you know, people and creatures that we are seeing in the real world. And I thought they did a really great job with that. Now, this film happens to be directed none other by the gentleman that directed the original 3 animated films. And that is, of course, Mr. Dean DeBlois. Oh yeah, Dean DeBlois. Woo, Dean DeBlois, yeah! So Dean DeBlois, like I said, he directed the other 3 previous films. He actually directed this live-action remake, which I thought was another clever idea by Universal. And I think that, once again, he just did such a great job giving us such an entertaining, fun film that, you know, if you're a huge fan, like I said, of the original, you'll be a huge fan of this one. And I really just enjoyed that he, came back, did pretty much a carbon copy of the original, but gave it into a great live-action form that was very entertaining and visually beautiful. And I think that, Dean did such a great job of giving us exactly what we got from the animated film and put it into live-action form as well. Because there's a lot of things in the animated film that could have been very hard to replicate, but they did such a great job of replicating everything that was in that animated film. I mean, how everyone looked was pretty close on. I feel all the dragons looked exactly like they did in the film, the animated film. Even the main antagonist bad guy dragon, oh my gosh, that was freaking awesome. And, Dean did such a good job of just giving us a carbon copy of that was just so enjoyable and just flawless. I mean, the animation, I think, is probably one of the most superb animations I've seen from Universal over the last several years. And I was just really impressed with the visualization of this film and how well it looked and how fun it looked and how it really did, basically transcribe to live action form very well. Because, sometimes you can do an animated film and turn it into live action and it just doesn't fit the mold. And this one did. They did such a great job of fitting it, and it worked really well. And I think Dean DeBose did such a great job with that and giving us that really well constructed, reboot, remake of his already animated film he directed. Now, if you haven't seen anything Mr. DeBose has directed, definitely check out his second film in that series, which I think was his best of the 3 films, and he just really knocked it out. And then, of course, the film called How to Train Your Dragon 2. Yeah! How to Train Your Dragon 2. Yeah! This is such a great movie. Really, takes on what the first one did and just catapults it times 10 and just makes a really solid film. Hiccup ends up getting, armor and stuff like that, which is really cool. We see him, he's learned more stuff to do with, Toothless, and we see him be more adventurous and more like a Viking. And just Dean did such a great job of bringing that film and giving us this great new addition to that franchise and adding to what already the first film did, and just made such a great, awesome sequel that just really blew it out of the water. Plus, also the new antagonist of the film was even awesomer than the first one. We have some really great, interesting storyline that they had added to it and given about the characters there, and it just was so well directed by Dean, and he did such a great job of giving us this really solid sequel that really, added to that great franchise. If you haven't seen anything Dean DeBose has directed, definitely go check out his How to Train Your Dragon 2. He did a really great job with it. But overall, I really enjoyed what he did with this live-action remake. He did such a great job and gave us a really solid film that, I feel it could have been better. It could have had a little differences that were a little better and added to it. But overall, I think he still did a decent job, and overall, a really fun reboot remake. If you haven't seen Dean DeBose directed anything, go check out his How to Train Your Dragon in theaters now. He did a really great job. So this movie has a really great cast. I think that everyone, did a really great job portraying their characters. I love that they brought back at least one person that did a voice to play their live-action counterpart for the film, and I think overall everyone did a pretty decent job. Unfortunately, I felt that Hiccup's voice was very synonymous with Jay Baruchel, who voiced him in the 3 animated films, and it's too bad they couldn't have found somebody that kind of sounded like him. I think because he just really, to me, sounds like Hiccup. He is Hiccup. And so, nothing against, Mason Thames, but he still, I wish he could have sounded a little bit more like the original Hiccup from the animated film. But I still think that overall, the great casting of this film, they did a really decent job. Now, to start us off is none other than Hiccup himself, Mr. Mason Thames! Oh yeah, Mason Thames! Woo! Mason Thames! Yeah! So Mason Thames has been in a few things over the years. He is becoming a pretty big actor. He's really been in a lot of things. He's going to be in the upcoming Black Phone 2, and he's, been in quite a few different things over the last few years. And he is a decent actor. He wasn't too shabby. I thought that he did a pretty decent job. I think they could have had somebody a little better portraying Hiccup. And like I said, somebody that sounded more like Jay Baruchel. But overall, I still think Mason did a decent job and gave us a really solid performance as Hiccup. And that he, overall got the story across and did a really decent job portraying him in the film. Now, if you haven't seen Mason Thames anything, definitely something to check him out in. It's a great film that came out a few years ago that is a solid horror film. And then, of course, the film called Black Phone. Yeah! Black Phone. Yeah. He plays the title kid character in Black Phone. And I totally did not recognize him because of how much he's aged in the last couple years. And I was like, holy crap, that's the same kid. I was like, holy moly. And it just was so freaking hilarious that he is playing, going from that character to, to Hiccup character. Whereas in Black Phone, he was just so much different and so interesting and just really played the character very well, and I really enjoyed him in it. And I thought he did a really stellar job, being in this kind of horror psychological thriller, having to go up against Ethan Hawke, and he really stood his ground, I felt. I thought he was just as great as Ethan Hawke portrayed the character in the film, and he really did a great job of portraying his character, and I thought that his dramatization was really done well. I thought he felt like he really was scared and trying to figure things out, and I think that he just overall did a really all-around great job portraying his character throughout the whole entire film. And I just thought that was a really great performance and really shined and showed that Mason Thames have some pretty decent acting jobs. And like I was saying earlier, I think that he kind of shined as Hiccup in How to Train Your Dragon. If you haven't seen Mason Thames in anything, definitely check him out in Black Phone. He was really superb in it. But overall, like I said, I thought he did a decent job. There are a few things, like I said, I wish they had changed and maybe had a different actor and just had more of a Jay Baruchel sounding person. But overall, I still think Mason did a good job and gave us a really decent Hiccup. If you haven't seen Mason Thames recently, go check him out in How to Train Your Dragon. He did a pretty good job. The next person I'd like to talk about that was in this film is the only returning person from the voice cast that portrays their character in the film and also plays Hiccup's father in the film. And that, of course, is Mr. Gerard Butler. Oh, yeah, Gerard Butler. Woo, Gerard Butler, yeah. I absolutely love Gerard Butler. He is so awesome. Of course, we recognize him from, 300. You might recognize him from the Angel of Fallen films. You might recognize him from Plane. You might recognize him from Den of Thieves and so forth. And he's just a great actor, and I really enjoy him. And I think he really plays his characters to the T and really delivers them very well. And I absolutely loved him voicing the character in the film. And he really delivered and brought that character to life in live action form. I mean, it was like watching him again as the animated version. He just did such a great job. And even the costume design and everything on Gerard did a great job too of giving him the look like he kind of did in the animated film. And just Gerard did such a great job. I loved his relationship with Hiccup. I love how he presented it and how he really felt like a real father. And I think that Gerard just did a great job of giving us a live action form of his character from the film and really showing and shining the emotions of what we couldn't see in the character's expressions in the animated form. And I also enjoyed just that he really brought it again to give us a great version of Stoic that was really a great added addition to this live action form. Now, if you haven't seen Gerard Butler anything, definitely a great film to check him out, and I think is a really decent film. It's a great film that came out a couple years ago called Geostorm. Yeah! Geostorm. Yeah! He was absolutely fantastic in this film. He plays a meteorologist type of dude that is basically brought in to save the world from a global disaster that has to do with the destruction of Earth. Kind of like The Core, kind of like Day After Tomorrow and so forth. And he just was so freaking awesome in the film. I love his character. I love his presence in the film. I think he really rocks it. I think he's really awesome. And I just really enjoyed it, too. You kind of really come to enjoy his character, and you're rooting for him and you want him to succeed, and you're like, you understand his kind of feelings and why he feels the way he does. And he just did a really good job expressing some great emotions throughout that entire film that were really great addition to that film, giving us, it's a very sci-fi actiony disaster film, but at the same time it has a little dramatic elements, and I thought Gerard did a good job of portraying those dramatic elements that really played out great to the film. And at the same time, I think Gerard just was, like I said, really kick butt in the film, and had some really great action sequences and some really great dramatic sequences that just made it a really great performance that I wish more people would talk about, because I think that it's another underrated performance of his that doesn't get enough recognition. If you haven't seen Gerard Butler thing, definitely check him out in Geostorm. He was absolutely phenomenal. But overall, I thought he was phenomenal in How to Train Your Dragon, replaying his character of Stoic in live-action form. And he just delivered and gave us a really great, that Stoic character that, we got from the animated film that was just so awesome. And you just feel like what a great father figure he was and how awesome he is. Gerard did such a great job. If you have not seen Gerard in anything recently, go check him out in How to Train Your Dragon. He was really excellent. Just want to shout out a couple of the other actors and actresses that were in this film. Those being Julian Dennison, who plays a great character in the film that is just a freaking hilarious character in the original animated film. He plays the character to the T. He was perfect for the role and just did a really fantastic job. And also I got to give it out to the actress that played Astrid, aka Miss Nico Parker, who did a really great job portraying Astrid. I thought she did a really great job playing the character. I thought she looked the part. I thought she actually looked kind of like Astrid in the film. And, being Thandie Newton's daughter, I think that, she's so attractive and so beautiful. So it was kind of funny seeing somebody a little more attractive playing Astrid, whereas Astrid in the animated film was a little more, I felt a little more plain looking. So I still think that she did a great job of portraying it and giving us a solid interpretation of Astrid, which she had the characterization down very well, especially with some of the great lines that she has to give as she's getting mad at Hiccup for, taking her thunder, basically. So I just want to give those two a shout out. They were just absolutely fantastic. But that brings me to the next and last person I'd like to talk about that was in this film. And that is none other than a great character actor who I absolutely love and think he's just fantastic. And I couldn't believe he was playing this character in the film, and that it was a great choice. That, of course, is Mr. Nick Frost! Oh yeah, Nick Frost! Woo, Nick Frost, yeah! Absolutely love Nick Frost. He's so awesome, so great. He always plays his characters to the T, and is just always super funny, and can play all kinds of different genres. I mean, I've seen him kind of portray kind of dramatic elements in his comedy, along with doing comedy as well. But at the same time, I think that Nick Frost has a really great sense of humor and just a really great acting provided that is just really enjoyable. And him playing this character in How to Train Your Dragon, I thought was a really great choice. I would have loved to have seen Craig Ferguson come back and reprise his role, because he would have absolutely been great to hear his voice again. But I think Nick Frost did a really good job of a great homage to his character by Craig Ferguson, and definitely looked more like the part than Craig Ferguson would look like. But overall, I think Nick just did a great job of portraying the character and giving us this really solid interpretation of the animated character, and he just was a really great addition to that cast. I mean, I think he had some really great scenes with Hiccup himself, and then he had some really great scenes with Stoic, and they both, interacted so well with each other, and he just played off the character so awesomely, and I just really enjoyed it and thought it was a really great performance. Now, if you haven't seen Nick Frost in anything, definitely a great film to check him out in. It's a great film that came out a few years ago called Hot Fuzz. Yeah! Hot Fuzz, yeah! So he plays the great character of Danny in the film, who is kind of friends with Simon Pegg's character, Sergeant Angel, and he just plays Danny so well. He plays that great kind of like just like comedy, comic relief type of idiot character, and he's just so freaking hilarious. But he has some of the greatest dramatic sequences in that film that were so well done. And I enjoy his presentation and what he brought to it and how well he acted it, and it really shined his acting ability, not just as a comic, but as, you know, kind of a more of a serious actor that could do some drama, who could do some, like, you know, dramatic elements if you wanted to, in like an action film or something. And he just did such a great job, and I thought that he was just amazing in that film, and he was just so cool and just really portrayed the character so well. It's a great addition to Simon Pegg. If you haven't seen Nick Frost or anything, definitely check him out in Hot Fuzz. He was absolutely phenomenal in it. But I thought he was absolutely phenomenal in How You Train Your Dragon 2. He was one of my favorite parts about the film, and he just was always fun to see on the screen when he was, and he just really kicks butt as his character. If you haven't seen Nick Frost recently, go check him out in How to Train Your Dragon. He was absolutely superb. So what is How to Train Your Dragon about? Basically, the film is the story about Hiccup, who basically is trying to become a Viking and dragon killer, but yet he really doesn't have the instincts to want to be a dragon killer, but ends up befriending a dragon and it becoming basically like his pet. And basically, you know, the rest of the film is about him trying to figure out a way to save the dragons and to see that dragons aren't as bad as they think they are, and basically save the day from the evil giant dragon that we see in the film. Really great film, really well done, really enjoyable. I thought it was very decent. It definitely had some things in it that I could have been a little different. I would have made it a little better, I felt. But overall, I think the film was really decent and did a good job. And I thought it was a really great carbon copy of the animated film that was very entertaining, great music, great directing, and just overall a decent job. I give this one 6 golden movie boxes up. I think it was definitely worth it. I think I'll definitely be adding it to collection. It was very enjoyable, and overall I think it was a great hit by Universal and a great job by them. If you haven't seen it yet, highly recommend go check it out in theaters now. Worth the watch. So that's it for this movie review, guys. As always, thank you for watching, thank you for liking, also thank you for subscribing. And if this is your first time here, or you have been here before, don't forget to check out any other new videos if you haven't seen mine yet. As always, people, if you enjoy my Captain Hero and want to help show the support for the channel, please, all my subscribers, new and old, please check out my awesome Patreon page, where you get all kinds of extra control once you become a member. Plus also that helps me make better and greater films for you guys, and videos, and all that kind of good stuff. Plus also you get cool accoutrement, like awesome gear. You also get to see bloopers and outtakes, all that kind of cool stuff. So definitely check it out. As always, catch you next one.